freaking first cut. Golly. Hello, YouTube. It is finally time. The LIV Golf field for London has been set. We'll break it all down. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll jump into it right now. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and alert, emergency pod. The LIV Golf field for London, event number 1, has been released. Kyle Porter is here to help me break down all the possible implications. KP, welcome.
Yeah, look at you, Rick. You're up at 6-8, or you're probably up at 5 a.m. on the West Coast. We're going to the U.S. Open together. I don't know if that's public, but it is now. There's a ton going on. One thing I wanted to say off the top, I got a ton of takes, but if people are watching, and there's some people in the comments right now, if you have like legitimate questions about this, please drop them in here, because we're so close to it that I don't know what people know, don't know, want to know, think they know. Just legitimately drop questions in there, and we'll try to answer some of them at the very end.
Perfect. I love that. Well, the field has been released, and I'll just rattle off a couple of these at the top here, KP, in order of their official World Golf ranking. Dustin Johnson, Louis Oosthuizen, Kevin Na, Taylor Gooch, Sergio Garcia. That's the main tier. Then you kind of get to Pablo Larrazabal, Richard Bland, Matt Jones, Sean Norris, Sam Horsfield, Lee Westwood. The only other golfers inside the top 100 in the world: Ryo Kinoshita, Ian Poulter, Bernd Wiesberger, Hudson Swafford, Oliver Becker. Those are the golfers inside the top 100 in the world rankings that are going to be playing in the first event. Now, I want to be clear, because this is already part of the confusion. This is not like the league moving forward. This is the field for
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like, a couple of things. One, the field, I think, is a little worse than I thought it would be. But it's got DJ, which I didn't expect. Right. So, God, there's a lot of echo here. Can you hear that?
I don't think we can. So as long as you can power through it,
I'll fight through it. If you take DJ away, this is way worse than I thought it would be. I mean, do you agree? Like, is that true for you, or is it about what you expected?
Well, I think we knew the first event was always going to be the worst.
Right.
Now, we weren't expecting DJ because, as we'll talk about, 101 days ago, he was fully committed to the PGA Tour. But without that, this is, I mean, come on, this is a bad field. It's a bad field.
Oh, it makes the Mexico Open look like the United States Open. I mean, as bad as that Mexico Open field was a few weeks ago, I mean, this makes that look like a major championship. I've got a lot of thoughts on this. I don't know where we want to start. You know, I think one thing is, if you were just talking about like the field, this feels a little bit like, I was talking to somebody about this at the PGA Championship. This feels a little bit like the new European Tour, like the modern European Tour, right? Because you're getting, like, two things have happened. One, the old European Tour, the DP World Tour, has sort of coalesced with the PGA Tour. So now they're partners, even though I'm not totally sure like what that means. I don't even know if either of them totally know what that means. But now you've got this other league that a lot of guys that used to primarily play the European Tour, guys like obviously Poulter and Westwood and Keimer, and also a lot of the South Africans like Oosthuizen and Schwartzel and those guys are now part of this. So I do wonder if I don't know what this is going to look like in 2 years or even 2 months, but I do wonder if this is just a kind of modern European Tour, and the DP World Tour, the old European Tour, just gets sort of brought underneath. It's sort of already happening, brought underneath the PGA Tour, and serves as kind of a feeder into the PGA Tour. I don't know if that's going to take place. That's what this sort of feels like right now.
Yeah, and obviously the name that and we had heard rumors that there was a surprise coming. We should have probably guessed it could have been Dustin Johnson, considering the fact he's played the Saudi International for 4 straight years. He's won it, but 101 days ago, KP, there was a statement released that in part says, I feel it is now time to put such speculation to rest. I am fully committed to the PGA Tour. He goes on to say, I'm grateful for the opportunity to play on the best tour in the world and for all it has provided for me and my family. So something's changed. Maybe a little bit of a bargaining chip on behalf of Dustin Johnson, but he has now apparently changed course and said he is no longer fully committed to the PGA Tour because he's going to play in London.
Well, and this is what Greg Norman in their group, this is what they needed, right? They needed a face. I think we thought it was going to be Phil, which feels a lot less relevant than DJ. DJ is the number 13 player in the world. I mean, he was probably as high as number 5 last year, or 4 or 6, or I don't know, something like that.
Keep naming
do what?
Just keep naming numbers higher than he's at.
I'll get one of them. So he is. They needed this because they needed some relevance as it relates to other top players. Their goal. This is not. They don't care about this field, right? They want to build toward a field in 2026, which, whatever you want to say about LIV, and I don't. Like, I'm not a proponent of it, but their view of like the long game is admirable. And of course, they also have the funds to be able to do it, to play the 7-year game or the 10-year game or whatever they're playing. But they needed somebody that was relevant so that it wouldn't just be like Taylor Gooch and Kevin Na trying to recruit the best, or not even like, I don't even mean like actually recruiting, but by them being there, compelling the best guys in the world to come over. DJ is more of that, I think, than most people, or it's certainly more of that than anybody in this field, right? And I also feel like I said this on Twitter last night, but he's kind of the perfect face for LIV Golf. Like, he's the perfect front man because he's not going to get all wrapped up in like the geopolitical, chatter in these press conferences. He's just gonna be like, yeah, I'm here to play golf, right. And like, that's it. And I don't know if they like fell backwards into this, but that's way better than Phil trying to talk his way through an hour of like, Phil's certainly got like global political takes, right? And he would unleash those and it would not go well, and DJ doesn't. And that's, if you're LIV, like, that's ideal. Like, that's exactly what you're wanting in terms of kind of a front man for the league. So I don't know if they meant to do it. I don't know if that was planned out, but it sort of has worked out perfectly for them. And a lot of things along the way, honestly, have kind of fallen their way, despite kind of what I think has been a bungling of the entire league from the beginning.
There is kind of a different calculus with the LIV Golf Tour. So, okay, think about every competition in the world. Generally, the better the competitors, the more money, prestige, whatever is on the line. If you go to a local club here and we're hacking it around, we're playing for $20. The calculus is different with LIV Golf, where almost to the point where the worse the field is to start, the better that is for them, because they're still offering the guaranteed payouts, the ridiculous amounts of money that don't even rival anything. They're the largest payouts for golf in the world, essentially. And to have a really bad field lets everyone else look at that and say, holy crap, Chase Koepka is going to win $20 million in this first season. I should consider this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that, Greg Norman has talked pretty openly about not caring what it looks like at the beginning and playing the long game. And they, they're and people may or may not most people probably know this if they've been following closely, but this can be they can lose money for a long time and it doesn't matter, right? Because their goal is not to be a high level, like thriving business. It's their goal. The Saudi Arabia, the goal of the people that are funding this is sports washing, right? Is normalizing your country through sport. Exactly what Lee Westwood said. I don't know if he knew he was saying it or if he meant to say it, but exactly what he said in that what interview? It wasn't BBC. It was
Sky Sports.
Sky Sports, yeah. What he said in that interview. And so if that's your goal and you have like $500 billion or whatever their public investment fund, I don't know how much is earmarked for sports or golf or whatever, but you can lose money for it, and they're going to lose money. You can lose it for $20 million is nothing. It's not even like a rounding error. It's just not even relevant. And you can lose $20 million over and over and over and over and over for a long time. And then all of a sudden in 7 years, you have the best golf tour in the world. And then like maybe you break even, or maybe you make money, or maybe you continue to lose money and they still don't care because you have the best golf league in the world and Saudi Arabia has been normalized, or what. I don't know how that's going to go, but that's essentially the rationale or the justification or the kind of template that we're working with as it relates to this league.
Okay, we will discuss implications. There's some questions I want to get to in the chat, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. Jacob, there's a question at 6:09 from Michael that says, will the players be able to use their sponsored clothing and equipment? Well, that's a pretty good segue into the news from just about 25 minutes ago, KP, that RBC says, quote, we wish him well. They have dropped Dustin Johnson. Obviously, DJ was not going to play the RBC Canadian Open, which coincides with this LIV Golf event in London. And I imagine we are going to see sponsors, both clothing and equipment, starting to take stands at some point.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that got leaked last week is that there's going to be uniforms. Because what's going to happen, at least as I understand it, is at least initially, every tournament is going to have 12 4-man teams, because there's a bonus of, what is it, $4 million for the winning team, or for the team portion of the event, which is honestly kind of intriguing. But the problem is, like, the teams are going to change every week initially, because there's no this league is almost serving as a trial run for what it could look like in 2025. Which it would be hilarious if DJ had to like if DJ and Oosthuizen and those guys had to draft teams, and DJ's like, I don't know who these guys are.
I don't know any of these guys.
Yeah, like, just pick somebody for me. I don't care, right? So as far as I understand it, it might function a little bit like the NBA, where you have uniforms and then there's a sponsor on the uniform, but not individual sponsors for these guys. I can't like swear by that, but that's sort of what that's sort of the direction I think they're headed.
6:14, Ryan asks, what will be the PGA's response to this, particularly with DJ? Well, we don't have that response yet, Kyle, but I imagine it's coming soon. And if I'm the PGA Tour, it will be swift and aggressive, because I believe that is their only defense. They do not control the major championships. They have increased purses, especially for the top players, and also these, side kickback bonuses for the best players on the tour, but they don't have a lot of protections otherwise. And they need to just say, your tour card hangs in the balance if you go and do this.
Yeah, I think that's right. Man, there's a bunch of different directions we could go in here. I think the PGA Tour is in a vulnerable spot right now. I really do, and I think DJ put him and others, but mostly DJ has put him in a difficult position to where they're going to they are going to have to say, like, I think what you said, swift and aggressive is what they're going to have to be, and they're just going to have to say you're out. Like, you can't play the Travelers, or you can't play the Canadian Open, or whatever. Right. I guess it would have to be, because they haven't actually played the event yet. They're just in the field, so it would have to be after. So the first one would be the Travelers, right? That's the first PGA Tour event post LIV. Right. I think that's what they have to do. I think so that'll, I guess, end up in court. But, like, here's my question, Rick. This is what I was thinking about a lot last night. What if these guys don't even want to come back and play the PGA Tour? Like what if they don't want, like, what if they don't even care to come back? What if they don't even try to come back and play the PGA Tour?
I don't think many of them. So when you look at that field list, if you are all of those older Euros who have already made a ton of money in their career, right? You're Lee Westwood, who's made upwards of $100 million across the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. If you're Sergio Garcia, even if you're Kevin Na and Louis Oosthuizen,
Brandon,
what is even your, like, I don't think there's much incentive to go back to the PGA Tour. You've got a couple of years left. You can play a handful of times a year. You could probably still play the major championships. You could probably make a lot of money playing a lot less golf.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because I think that's where it gets really, really interesting. And I've been beating this drum, and I might be just, like, way, like, going down the wrong path here. But I think I think we know what the PGA Tour's response is going to be. I think the USGA's response is going to be fascinating, because they've got the first major championship coming up post this event. They've got 3 of their last 11 champions in this field, between DJ, Martin Keimer, and Graham McDowell, dating back to 2010. They're all in this field. So almost 30% of your last 12 years worth of champs are in the field. I don't think what's the exemption for the U.S. Open if you win it? 10 years, right?
I'll double check that.
I think it's 10 years. So DJ's exempt through 2026. Keimer's exempt through 2024, and then McDowell's exemption's probably already run out. Regardless, if you're the USGA, you have to have a response, and if the response is neutral, if they do nothing, like if the USGA lets Dustin Johnson play in this event, then the message is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've got a lot going on in my head. The message to the PGA Tour is good luck. Like,
the message is, this is your problem.
Sounds like a you problem. You're going to be paying a bunch of lawyers. We don't care. And then I think if that happens, if the USGA is sort of just like, well, I don't know, whatever, man, then I think a lot more top players will consider going, because top players, Rick, will be able to, I just put this out on Twitter too, will be able to talk themselves into, well, if I can just play the majors and then play maybe throw in a couple of Asian tour events, I can earn enough OWGR points that I don't even need the PGA Tour. So I can make my money, stay in the top 100 or 50 or whatever, based on just the major championships and the Asian, like playing an Asian tour event or 3. And that's just my new career, is playing in this league and then playing the majors, right? Like, is that not a path that this could go down? And doesn't that mean the PGA Tour is, I don't know if they're in trouble, but that feels really like problematic, and it feels like they're in a really kind of vulnerable position right now.
That to me, what you just described is the most likely path, which would require evolution from the PGA Tour that is not just PIP money, that is not just, okay, upping the FedEx Cup champion to $18 million or $100 million. It would be more of a systemic reform to change itself, like things we've heard about, where they redo the fall portion of the schedule, or they give players more of a say in it would create a situation where the PGA would have to reform or be at even greater risk of everyone going and doing this.
And then the yes, I agree. Although I think throwing they're in a game where I'm not sure anything else matters besides the money for a lot of guys, and they just, how are you going to compete with that, right? Here's the thing. I think that we have a misperception, we being golf fans have a misperception of why most guys play professional golf. It's because they want to make a lot of money, right? Like, we get wrapped up in, oh, how many Bay Hill titles does Terrell Hatton have? And it's like, those guys don't, I mean, they care, but they don't care to the degree that we care. That's true of pretty much all sports, and it's true in that specific way in golf. And I just think that the PGA Tour has gotten themselves, they haven't gotten themselves, they've been forced into a little bit of a game that I don't know how they can win it, right? Like what
They need to I don't know how it's possible, and I don't know what you could do, but they have got to woo the majors. They have to. Because totally. Think about this. If we flip this the other way and say the USGA comes out and says, if you play one of these events, you are not playing the US Open. And then that, in turn, the RNA is like, okay, we'll follow suit with it. No one wants to be the outlier, and no one wants to be the first. So if they are the first, and they do take a stance that says you're not doing this, the other major championships follow, this is dead. The USGA could essentially put the nail in the coffin here of guys considering going over there right now.
I think that's right. Because I think that if they do that, not like, you might still get the Sam Horsfields of the world, but you will never get the John Rahms of the world. And if you know you're never getting the John Rahms of the world, then what future does your league, like, the allure of the LIV Golf is that John Rahm is eventually going to play in it, or guys like him, right? You can, carrot can keep being dangled out there. But if the USGA, Augusta National, whoever says you're banned, then that carrot's gone. And then all of a sudden, Greg Norman and the Saudis are like, or the Saudis look at Greg Norman and they're like, wait a second, like, we can't ever get the top guys. And it's like, no, that's not going to happen. So I guess I maybe disagree with you a little bit about the PGA Tour having to reform itself, because I just don't know. Like, I think maybe that matters marginally, but I don't know overall if that's going to make that big of a difference if the money continues to be what it, and maybe you're talking some about like reforming itself financially as well. But right. I feel like it's an inequitable competition because the Saudis have just so much more money to throw at guys to lure them into their league.
But when you're the Saudis and all you have is the money to lure, and you're the PGA Tour and you can say, okay, well, listen, we are this well-run, established organization for however many decades. There's a risk that this thing doesn't exist in 2 years. We can get you close on the money. We can get $2 million, $2.5 million up top. We can guarantee for whatever, right? You don't have to pay $4 million for a 54-hole event. You can get a lot closer.
Yeah, I think when you say, hey, you can also wear sponsors on your clothes, like there's, I think I understand what you're saying. I think the other thing, Rick, is, and I don't totally know how this works, so I'm speaking a little bit out of turn here, but PGA Tour has to figure out how to leverage the OWGR board to not ever distribute points to these events, right? Because that's the other thing. If all of a sudden these LIV golf events have OWGR points, then top guys won't even have to convince themselves that they can earn enough OWGR points only at the 4 majors to keep playing in the majors. They can just play in this league and earn OWGR points, right? And who runs the OWGR? It's the PGA Tour, it's Augusta National, it's the big organizations in golf. And so the PGA Tour, like that actually might be their best point of leverage, because it's a PR nightmare to try to convince the PGA, for the tour to try to convince the RNA and whoever to ban guys from their events. That's not great. But behind the scenes, to control the OWGR, I think they could do that. Like, I think that's actually the clear, easier path for the PGA Tour going into the future.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of back channeling. There's going to be a lot of discussions to be had. Quickly on a couple of these other names here, KP, because I'm sure we could talk about this for 10 or so hours. Biggest surprise, Taylor Gooch.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Up and coming, some could be a star, 35th in the world rankings, already a winner on the PGA Tour, a lot of golf ahead of him, which is not what you can say for a lot of these other, higher end golfers in this field. He might have just burned his PGA Tour card for life.
Yeah, he was almost, I don't know if he was more surprising than DJ, but it was up there. I mean, those were the two most surprising, right? Was there anybody else that was even close? Oosthuizen?
No, literally all of these guys. Hudson Swafford, just because no one probably asked him about it at any point, but basically everyone else has been considered, been rumored, or kind of indicated that this was coming.
Yeah, I think Gooch is. I mean, I tweeted this out. He's going to clean up. I mean, I think he's the best player in this league right now. Like, would you be surprised if he went out and won the first event, won $5 million or whatever it is?
No, yeah. The Gooch is now in a race to earn as much as possible, as quickly as possible, in case this thing is belly up in 24 months. And he's got nowhere to go.
But he's going to clean up. I mean, he's going to make, he might make $20 million. He might make more than Scotty Scheffler this year.
It's true.
Which again is like, I think it's very easy for us to sit here and say like, oh, well, I would never do that. I care about things that are noble and I care about the rights. And maybe you do, maybe I do, but we also are not staring at the opportunity to make $20 million by playing in 8 golf tournaments over the next 6 months.
Yeah. And you could also, it's also very easy for people to be like, well, I don't believe in this, but I can do, this is what Bubba tried to say too, is I could do a lot of good with the money that I earn over there. It's like, that's a good train of thought. The other thing is, so we've got 42 golfers that have been announced. However, that means there's still a couple of spots open. Now there's been a lot of speculation about this. Because the field is 48. So that means there's 6 spots open. I have heard both. Some of those spots will come from qualifiers from an Asian Tour event. I've also heard all 6 of those spots have already been filled. They've already been determined, and that they could be waiting for the Memorial to finish to announce them, which would indicate they are golfers who are playing in the Memorial who do not want to be announced this early.
That would be far more interesting than the Asian Tour qualifier. Which tournament is the Asian Tour qualifier?
I can find out for you. But and without just throwing people under the bus here, the likely suspects would be like your Patrick Reeds, your Bryson DeChambeau's. Apparently, they could be still holding a spot for Phil Mickelson, who is not listed in this.
Harold Varner. Harold Varner in Memorial Field. Is Kokrak in the field?
Well, Kokrak has a wedding, I think he said on a podcast. So he'll be in the second event, but he's got a wedding that he's going to instead of London.
Oh, that's why he's not in this field.
Yes.
Also, where's Robert Garrigus?
I know, dude. This was
the sacrificial lamb. The PGA Tour just ended him, and then he didn't even get into the first field.
They denied his waiver. Him and Tommy Gainey went out and were the first round leaders at Zurich. Then they missed the cut, and we might never hear from Robert Garrigus again.
Yeah, I think so one, let me say this before I forget it. I'm surprised there's not more Korn Ferry guys in this field. And I don't know who was offered. I don't know what the process was, but that to me, when you're grinding on Korn Ferry or even PGA Tour Latin America, and you have an opportunity, and maybe they didn't, maybe most of those guys didn't, they probably didn't have the opportunity. That would be an easy justification to just to get into that field. I know we have a lot of amateurs in the field, which maybe we'll talk about in a second, but I mean, the Phil thing, I have to think he's still going to do this, right? Like he can go back to the PGA Tour, right?
Yeah. What are his other options? At this point, he has done so much damage to his brand, to everything that's going on. It's not like going back to the tour and saying you're sorry is going to fix it. You might as well take the money and go play at this point.
Well, and he is a special case because he's in the Masters for life. He's in the Open until he's 60. He's in the PGA until he's 60, and he's got 4 more years of the U.S. Open. So he doesn't have any major, unless those guys just get banned, he doesn't have any major qualification to worry about. Like that, none of that matters. So I guess I don't know. I don't know why he wouldn't do it. And again, like this is, you said this earlier. I'm glad you said this. I think people think like this is the league. This is not the league. This is the first event. Like the second event is in Portland in July?
A couple of weeks. Yeah.
That's a much obviously easier one to travel to for guys that are in the United States. I think if you had to guess, do you think the strength of field for the second event will be stronger or weaker than this first event?
I think there's 2 things it relies on. Whatever the PGA Tour says in the next few days, and who wins in London.
I think also what the USGA says.
Yes. So, but I think in general, the way that this would work is that the fields would get stronger as we go. It is very hard in most aspects of life to be the first mover, to be that outlier, to do something different. That comes with a lot of potential risk, and it will get normalized. There will be guys that say, well, Dustin went, and that's how they'll convince themselves.
And that's why DJ was such a perfect like first mover, right? Because he didn't have any of the sort of political gymnastics to do. He was like, I'll just play golf for a lot of money, right? Like, I don't know if they targeted him. I don't know if he was like a mark or whatever, but if they did, and they should have, because he's so like just tailor-made for that role in ways that I think off the top, you're like, oh, we want somebody like Rory, who's like really smart and can like navigate all this. And it's like, no, you want somebody like DJ who doesn't even try. Right.
Yeah.
Like
that. He will put his foot in his mouth at any point because he's never going to say anything of substance.
Right. And when you get that first, like you said, like you called it, like the first mover, the first person to make the leap, DJ is obviously more willing to do that than a lot of other stars were. So I think I agree with you. I think if the USGA and the RNA are neutral on this, I think the Portland event will be, I don't know about significantly better, but I think it will be at least marginally better than the first one.
Yeah. So Jacob, if you're watching on YouTube, is showing the events right here, and we can put a loop on a couple of these things. So there's an international series event in England, in London this week. It's not in London. It is in England that will potentially provide some of those qualifiers for this event, depending on who you believe. The amateurs are interesting, and I don't know the full scope of what the amateurs have to deal with, because what we've been talking about for the vast majority of this, Kyle, is the PGA Tour's response to its members going and playing. Well, these amateurs aren't members, right? Is that kind of like a loophole that they figured out to say, I'll go try to get my money, and then when I'm ready to turn pro, when I'm ready to get a tour card later, I'll still be able to do that because I'm not a card-carrying member at the moment.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, because if banning tour members feels like it's going to be difficult, imagine trying to ban people who are not members.
Yeah, good luck.
That certainly will not be something that holds up in court, right?
Banning James Pyatt, amateur, is the same as banning you, Kyle Porter. Like it's like you have no jurisdiction here.
Yeah. Yeah. For my late midlife like journey to the PGA Tour. Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought of that. Did you come up with that?
I don't know. I was just thinking about it right now. Yeah.
That's very true. The thing that I don't totally understand is if you're an amateur, God, this is so complicated. If you're an amateur, can you make money through the NIL?
Sure.
Because I saw that Ryan French, a case of the Mondays, what's the Twitter handle?
Monday Q info.
Yeah. Was talking about how I need to pull it up because I don't want to get this wrong. Maybe producer Jacob can pull it up. Something about how these amateurs were getting like a ton of money for jumping in, but like how's that legal with the NCAA?
Well, the NCAA is the wild, wild west right now, and I assume as long as basically as long as you classify it as, hey, we're paying you for your name and likeness, you can basically get away with anything. Here's the tweet. So it says, this is from Monday Q Info, case of the golf one. Just got a call from a person in the know that said that one of the AMs got $6 million up front and $250,000 a start. That's the biggest issue for the tour if they start picking off the top AMs. And then here's the other implication here. Yeah, mark it down. PGA Tour U top 5 will be full card very soon. So there's like 9 different layers there, KP. Number one, $6 million up front is like second on the PGA Tour money list right now, plus $250,000 a start, plus whatever you earn. Although I don't know, can AMs earn then and still be amateurs if they want to play in the NCAA?
That's what I'm saying.
Money.
That feels you know what we can do to make the LIV PGA Tour relationship simpler? Throw in the NCAA. That'll make it a lot simpler.
All these organizations with rules that are just all over the place.
Incredibly ambiguous. I mean, think about this though. If you're 21 and somebody gives you $6 million and $250,000 a start, you know what doesn't matter anymore? Riviera and Bay Hill and Muirfield Village, right? Like, and that's sort of what
you've also never experienced it,
right?
So it's like, well, I don't even know what I'm missing.
Yeah. Now I think that again, it just I can't get away from the fact that it's going to come down to the majors and what they decide. I just feel like I just keep going back to that, and I think that's sort of where we're at right now.
All right, two more quick things. That last line there, the PGA Tour U is interesting because that is the feeder system where you earn points playing collegiately and can earn status on I don't know what it is now, but it's like some guys I think get conditional status on the PGA. Some guys go straight to the Korn Ferry. Some guys go straight to like their circuit of choice of the Canadian Tour, the Latino America Tour, or I think China. So there's a lot of layers to this, but the PGA Tour has been making changes to that system essentially to try to almost offer amateurs full cards so that they can in turn threaten removing their card.
That sums up how absurd this whole thing is, right? I mean, and this goes back a little bit to, I think the most brilliant thing that LIV Golf and Greg Norman have done is invest in the Asian Tour, right? Because now all of a sudden in 2029, you've pulled in, if LIV Golf still exists, and because people watching, like, I think there's confusion here. I still have some confusion over it, but there's a difference between the Asian Tour, which LIV Golf has invested in, right? How much is it? Like 300 million or whatever?
Yeah, something like that.
And then the LIV Golf Tour, which is not part of the Asian Tour. It's separate from that. But if you're if investing in the Asian Tour means that's a feeder into the LIV Golf stuff, and you've pulled in all these young, like elite Asian players, and you're trying to do the same with young elite Americans, then you really are playing the long game, because you're getting all these. It's like Ryan said on there, like you're getting all the you're picking off, just going down the WAGR top 10, the world amateur golf rankings, and just pulling people into your league. Then all of a sudden, the John Rahms of the world are not. They're not. We're not talking about them as playing on the PGA Tour. They're already in your league. You don't even have to worry about the John Rahms of the world. But then that begs the question: did the PGA Tour make John Rahm what he is? And would he? Because listen, like if you watch golf on TV and you have no context and you don't know who any of the guys are, everybody like looks the same. It's not as if you can tell, man, this guy is just like, you need the context of the tournament, the scores, the field to tell who is great. If you're just watching guys hit shots, everybody looks the same. And so then it begs the question, did the tour make Rahm and Spieth and all these guys superstars, or did they do it themselves? I would argue that the tour did, but also more so the majors did. So it's just this super like complicated thing that if you're a top amateur and you go into LIV Golf, like even if you are playing the best, even if you're number one in strokes gained on Data Golf or on rickrungood.com, it might not matter, because contextually we don't understand how good you are, because you're not playing in the Memorial, which we understand. You're not playing in the PGA Championship, which we understand. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes complete sense. And it's something that we will not like. It'll take a decade for us to figure this out.
Right. And so then is somebody who's like actually the 50th best player in the world, but playing on the PGA Tour, still the top star because they're on the PGA Tour playing in a context in which we understand it? I don't know. And that might be just like an alternate reality that we'll never truly know. But I don't know, man. I thought this field dropping would provide answers, and instead I just have like 1,000 more questions than I did 2 weeks ago.
Yes. And I'm sure that will continue to expand when the PGA Tour inevitably responds and the USGA maybe takes a stance. And like this, we'll go at this for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to pull the rug out from underneath you here, KP, and do a hard swap. We are live right now. It is Wednesday.
Real quick, can we pull up this question from Andrew Rawls? Because I think this is where you're going. Jacob, it's like the 5th question up.
Yeah. If Mahomes and Allen win, will they go to LIV? I'll tell you what, Mahomes has got a pretty good contract. He might be the only guy the Saudis can't lure. $500 million contract. I think Patty Mahomes is doing okay.
That's pretty good. That's pretty funny. I like that. Good job, Andrew.
It's a Wednesday. It's June 1st. Golf is going to be played on television today. It is the match 6. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen versus Aaron Rodgers and the GOAT, Tom Brady. They're going to be playing at the Wynn here in Las Vegas. And I don't know, KP. A couple quarterbacks out there knocking it around. This is the first time I believe we've had it without any professionals at all.
Yeah, is it okay? Is this a safe place to admit that I'm actually excited about this? I think, one thing that makes it compelling to me is only being 12 holes. I don't need Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers playing 19 holes or whatever. I'm excited to watch it with my son. He's a huge Tom Brady fan. For reason, he's like, they're 39 years apart, but he is a huge. I told him, I was like, Mahomes is like a lot closer to your age. He's like, I like Brady, so he'll be rooting for Brady and Aaron Rodgers. I'll be rooting for Mahomes and Josh Allen. So it'll be fun. I'm excited about it.
The Wynn's a great course. Hopefully they route it correctly this time, because Brooks beat Bryson too fast and we didn't get to see some of the best holes the last time they played at the Wynn. Looking at this, Rodgers and Brady are the favorites. I think we've learned through these 2 things. 1, you take the dogs. And 2, you just take the side that the best guy is on. And when they align, you smash it, which is what happened when Phil and Barkley took on, who was it? Peyton and Steph. I think that, so Allen and Mahomes are the dogs here. I think Josh Allen might be the best player.
You think he's better than Rodgers?
Rodgers was clinical the last time we saw him and was awesome. The little that I've seen from Josh Allen is quite impressive.
I mean, it's not hard to talk me into him being better than Brady. I think Brady can be good, but he often is really stinky. Like, he just stinks.
It's the opposite of his football career, where he always shows up in the playoffs. He's the big time player on the football field. Even in times where I'm like, oh, he can't be worse than he was last time on the golf course. He's been worse. His game doesn't travel all that well.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, like, I just think Mahomes and Allen are more fun to root for. Like, is that an okay side to be on?
Yes, because I hope you're not betting this for like
seriously
on your table. So yes, I think just choosing the side that you hope wins is fair.
I think that's where I'm at with this. With no professional golfers in the field, I just think Mahomes and Allen are more fun. So that's the side I'm going to be on.
What if they helicopter Phil in 6 holes in and he hits some celebrity shots? And this is the first time we've seen Phil in months.
That would be, what would be even sicker is if so I think the broadcast is Ernie Johnson, Barkley, Trevor Immelman, Amanda Renner. There might be somebody else in there. What if Phil just jumped into that? That would be what I would want.
And they don't even press it. He just is like, oh, we're here for a round of golf. Like he just acts like normal.
Him and Barkley just chopping it up for like 2 hours would be, I mean, I'd have to write like 25 blog posts about it, but it would be phenomenal. It would be so good.
Last thing. Did you see the Tom Brady drone video where he made a hole-in-one and they had it on first-person video with the drone? Did you see this?
Yeah, a hole-in-one.
Okay, that was like 100% fake, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I mean, it was. The drone thing was cool. Like, they need more of that. The Augusta did that this year with the drone through the clubhouse and everything. It was unbelievable. Like, I love that in golf, but yeah, Brady loves doing stuff like that. Like, just whoever's running his social media is just enjoying life.
All right. Well, more to come, obviously. PGA Tour starts up tomorrow. Thursday, round-by-round recaps coming. We'll wait on bated breath for the PGA Tour's response to all of this. But, all right. I think that was fun, KP. I think we did an okay job. Yeah,
it was good. We chopped it up. We hopefully answered some questions. We probably asked more than we answered. But yeah, this is, the No Laying guys have been big on this. Like, this is not going away. This is not something that is like, well, the first event wasn't good, I guess it's over now. That's, like you said, like, the worse it is, it's almost the better in the long term for LIV, which sounds ridiculous, but I totally agree with. And so it's something that we're just going to have to get used to talking about. I'm exhausted of it, but it's not going to change, and it's only going to get, I think, more heated as we head into 2 more majors this summer, as well as whatever the PGA Tour's response is later, I guess today, but then also into the summer as they continue to respond and kind of fight against this rival league.
All right. Gear up. We'll be here for it. Producer Jacob does all the hard work behind the scenes. Thank you very much. That's Kyle Porter. You can find him on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.